here to speak to you guys about working in housing. So my name, as Andrew said, is Gift Ngubane. Firstly, actually, thank you for inviting me to come and to talk to you guys. Um, so I work for a company which is called Abri. As Andrew said, Abri are a housing association that's based in the south of England. It's a partnership of two organisations, which is something which has happened just quite recently. Well, when I say recently, it's happened. It's coming up to 2 years now, actually. So it's not that recent. So previously we were known as Radian, and the other company was known as Yarlington, which is on the west side of the country, more towards Bristol and Gloucestershire. Combined, we've got 35,000 homes with over 80,000 residents living in them. And our company's strong belief is that every single person should have access to a home. So we build, own, look after, and then we sell homes that people can afford. I just wanted to talk about my background just briefly, just so you can get an understanding as to why I wanted to take this career path. So I was born in Durban, South Africa. Durban is a coastal city in South Africa, known for its long, beautiful beaches, and people always migrate to Durban. It's kind of like the Cornwall of South Africa because of its beaches and just how aesthetically pleasing the area is. It's a multicultural city with people from all different kinds of backgrounds, all living in one tight-knit space in Durban. So they've got wonderful festivals that they hold and markets where people can showcase stuff from their cultures and people can buy that. And Durban is a massive sporting city. So you've got the bigger stadium there, that's the football stadium, and then you've got the rugby stadium next to it. But Durban also has another side to it. South Africa is known as a beautiful country, but it is strife with a lot of poverty. So in Durban, we've got 3.17 million people that are living there, but 1.6 million of all those people live in poverty. A lot of people live in properties like the ones that you can see, built out of metal and built out of wooden or pieces of wood, and others are built out of mud. 44% of people that live in Durban are currently experiencing poverty, with 26% of people that are eligible for work currently being unemployed. And then COVID, when it hit, it caused that to increase by 12%. So when I was growing up, fortunately for me, my family weren't as poverty stricken as a lot of people were. But I grew around a lot of people, and a lot of my neighbors and friends, they lived in properties like this where the living conditions weren't, great. I was going to say weren't great, but that's just me underselling that. So they live in really poor standards, and really what they were doing is just surviving. And for me, at an early age, I felt really helpless because I couldn't really do anything. I was quite young at that point. And that's something which always stuck with me, that I always wanted to see people living in conditions that I was living in, which weren't particularly much greater than these ones, but I didn't want to see anyone living in conditions that were below the standards that I was living in at that time. So that always stuck with me, and it's something which has carried on up until to my later life, when I've started doing this, or when I've jumped on this career. So I'll just briefly breeze past the next stages of my life. So luckily, my mother was quite talented. She was part of a dance group in South Africa, which got scouted by the West End. and they were given a contract to perform in the West End for just a year. So she moved away, and I was left in South Africa with my grandparents. So she was performing in the West End, and when it was coming up to the end of her contract, she didn't want to leave the UK just purely because of opportunities that were available in the UK, and she wanted to strive for a better life for us. So she picked up loads of different jobs, but in the end, she had just a limited amount of time before she had to move back to South Africa. So she joined the British Army as sort of like a last resort type of thing. And then 3 years after, I was able to join her in Germany. So I moved to Germany in 2004, lived there for 6 years. Unfortunately, I didn't pick up on the language just because I was living in army barracks where they just spoke English. So I didn't get an opportunity to learn German. The most German that I learned is probably Ich spreche kleine Deutsch, which if anyone has ever done German in GCSE will know that's quite basic. Played academy football because I was really into football. But when I realized that football wasn't going to be my career path, me and my family, we moved back to the UK in 2010. And then I had to start thinking about a different career path and what I wanted to be going forward. And if you can't make it as a footballer, a lot of people turn towards writing about sports. So I then started doing my sports journalism degree in Southampton, Solent. And then I graduated in 2016. But just before graduation, I didn't really want to leave uni without having a job to go into. So that's when I applied for a job at Radiant at the time. And I applied as a customer service advisor, but I knew nothing about housing. I just needed a job at that time. And then when I got into customer services, I got to learn about all these different departments, because as a customer service advisor, you're the first person that anyone talks to. You're the face of the company. So when someone is calling in or they're coming into the office, they would most likely speak to a customer service advisor. So you need to be quite knowledgeable about all different areas of the business. If someone needs support with their rent account, you need to have knowledge about the rent account and information about income. If people are having disputes with their neighbors, you need to know certain things that can be said and what needs to be escalated to a housing manager. Or you never know what someone is going to be calling in about, but you need to have a wealth of knowledge in relation to housing. And by doing that, you get to learn about all these different departments, and also what you learn about is the amount of opportunities that are available within a housing association. So I'm just going to show some of these jobs. This is just very minute in terms of the number of jobs that are available within housing. So you've got income officer, accountant, housing officer, electricians, architect, project managers, community development officers. There's loads of jobs that are available in the housing sector. But for me, the one that really piqued my interest was a community development officer role at that time. Because as I said, as you can see here, a community development officer, they develop plans to improve the quality of life in local communities. They investigate and assess the community's needs and issues, and manage resources and develop implementation strategies. So going back to my younger self, where I felt completely helpless to support the people that were living around me, I felt if I navigated towards a community development role, I could be doing something to help people from communities that were deprived. And for me, that I would have felt like I was doing something to give back to people that were less fortunate. So then a role within the community development team came up, and it wasn't an assistant role. I immediately applied for that, and luckily I was able to succeed in the interview for that. But in that role, my job was to support all the community development officers in order for them to complete their roles. So I was working more so on the admin side of things. And then whenever someone just needed an extra pair of hands, I was there to help and support them. And then what happened is one of the community development officers, they went off on maternity leave. And now they needed someone to fill that position just for 6 months whilst they're having a baby. And luckily for them and luckily for me, I was there and I was ready at the time to step in because I had learned a lot about about what they do, the community development officers, from the time I was shadowing them. So when that role was about to come to an end with the person returning from maternity leave, I wanted to maintain the level of standard of a role in terms of impact within a community. I didn't really want to go back to being an assistant. I wanted to do something that was directly impactful to a community. So another role came up within the community development team, which is the employment support advisor role. And that's the role that I'm currently in now. So in my job now, I help people in our communities overcome the barriers that are stopping them from securing meaningful and sustainable employment. And what I mean by that is it's relatively easy to help people get into any jobs. But if you want the job to become sustainable, it has to be a job that person particularly enjoys, and it has to be a job where they see value from, and they find it to be there's a word I'm trying to think of and it's at the tip of my tongue and it's not coming out. It has to be satisfying for them. It has to be a job where they get a lot of value from it. I can't think of the word. I'll probably remember it a bit later on.
Rewarding.
What's that, sorry?
Is it rewarding? Yeah.
Reward. That's the one. Yes, it's extremely rewarding to them. Just like myself, this job to me is sustainable because I find it really meaningful and rewarding because I'm giving back. I'm supporting people that are in a difficult position and help them overcome any barriers that are there and see them become more successful in whatever that they want to go into. So I do that by providing one-to-one career advice. I support people with job searching applications. I support them with their CVs and cover letters. I engage with local employers to create employment opportunities and learning opportunities as well. I deliver employment training to schools, implement projects that will help reduce deprivation in our communities. So the one-to-one stuff with individuals, that's half of my job. The second half of the job is the implementing projects that will help reduce deprivation in our communities. So I'll just go on, I'll speak about some of the projects that I'm currently leading on. So we've got, on the right-hand side here, you can see we've got a development which is called Herbert Collins House in Mansbridge. So previously, that building used to be our old office before we moved to another office in Eastleigh, which is called Collins House. The building was not used for a long time, and we just had to find a way to better utilize that space. So we decided to demolish the building that was there we had built it in 1920. 2005, and it was built on our first ever estate, which Mansbridge is. So it was our very first ever office. So demolishing it was a big thing because it was, in a way, a monument, if you can call it that, to that estate. So we decided to knock it down and then build 14 new flats. But any times that you're looking to have a development in Southampton, you have to have something which is called an employment skills plan. An employment skills plan is a plan for you to create employment and training opportunities for local residents. That's probably the shortest way that you can explain it. So with that, you have to create projects and ways that you can get people to work within the site and also to get a value from it in terms of training. So far, we've been able to recruit one apprentice to work on the site. We've had one existing apprentice from Southampton that's been able to continue learning on the site. We've helped 5 local residents complete 5 CSCS training. We've helped 4 other local residents complete construction training on site as well. We helped one person complete a level 4 qualification, which is just above an A-level qualification, if I'm correct. And then we've supported local residents with wellbeing sessions. I also facilitate or chair, I can say, a mentoring circle in Southampton. So the mentoring circle came from just discussions with the job centre. So the job centre mentioned that people or young people even from the Black Asian minority community, that was a bit of a tongue twister. They were really struggling during COVID, employment-wise, and they wanted for us to create something where we can learn about their struggles and then find ways to support them and build up their confidence, and in a way just make them a bit more, become more employable, just doing employability training. So I myself leading the project with the support of Balfour Beatty, Balfour Beatty being a massive global infrastructure company. We were able to help and support these young people in terms of learning about the infrastructure and construction trade. I decided to go in that direction just purely because I knew that there were direct employment opportunities with Balfour Beatty. So we focused heavily on infrastructure and construction. So during that, we have been able to support, well, this all started, from May this year. And then so far, we've had 14 members that have taken part. 4 of those members have secured jobs. 5 of them had their interviews last week, and we're just awaiting the outcomes for interviews. But I've had feedback in relation to the interviews, and all of them have been quite positive. So hopefully that could be maybe 9 people to have secured jobs from taking part in that project. And then in terms of the type of character that you need to be to be able to succeed in this type of role, you need to be driven by the need to help people. You need to have great empathy. So you need to be able to understand the plight that other people have, the difficulties that they have in their lives, and just be able to see things from their perspective and be able to walk in their shoes. Because by doing that, firstly, not only are you going to build a good relationship and rapport with that person because you understand the struggles that they have, but also you will get to understand or be able to create like an action plan that will help support that person and then overcome those barriers, because you won't be able to do that unless you fully understand the struggle that they go to. You need to have patience. Patience is probably the one that's for me is a high priority in this job. because you will come across a lot of people who maybe lack a bit of motivation, or kind of ties in with the next one. But people that lack motivation, so you need to be patient with them, help them build up, because no one really would be able to overcome any barriers just overnight. Sometimes they may have setbacks which may set them back further than maybe setbacks would set me back or set yourselves back. But you need to understand that people are different. So you need to give them time and invest in them, because in the end, when you start to see progress within people, that's very satisfying to me, but that's really important for their life goals. If you give up on people too quickly, or you try to push people to do things too quickly, you can turn them off by that. It's really important to have that patience. And as I said, motivational. Sometimes people may struggle with motivation. I really felt it during COVID times, where a lot of people were really, firstly, because of COVID, it was difficult for people because of the health impact. They didn't really want to go out to find work and stuff, because of fear of contracting COVID, which is completely fair. But also there was a lot of people, or there were a lot of people that were hiding a little bit behind that, and deep down it was just a motivational issue. So working with them, having that patience and just working through that and trying to get them to become a bit more proactive is quite important. And we were able to succeed with a lot of people just by giving them that time and being motivating and just being a good positive influence to those individuals is quite important. You have to be a good communicator. That's not just by talking. Being a good communicator is just about listening. And it's something which I've had to learn over time. My partner would definitely confirm that before I used to listen just to respond rather than just listen to understand. And it did cause a few arguments between me and her. So now I've learned that, you know what, you need to be a good listener and you have to listen to understand people rather than just listen to respond to whatever that they've said. So being a good communicator is quite important in this role. Good interpersonal skills. So you need to be able to build rapport with people, some type of relationship, and just be, as I've said before, just a positive influence to those people. And you need to be organized, just because you would be working with my caseload at the moment. I've got over 50 people that I'm working with. So if I'm not organized, I can't really help anyone progress because I'm always playing catch up and things would then be all over the place. So it's quite important to be organized. And then in terms of qualifications, ideally, these are ideal, but it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to get eventually into this role without having these qualifications. So GCSEs, you need to have as a bare minimum A star to C, or grade 4 to 9. You need to have a level 4 advice and guidance, or I should say, eventually you need to have that. And I'm currently working on that now. So I'm doing a level 4 course in advice and guidance, just because it's going to help me learn how to effectively provide and deliver advice to people and be able to support them, support them in a better way than I'm currently am at the moment. You need to have previous experience in a advisory role. So that's where when I was working in customer services, I was able to gain that experience. And you need to, I think Ben said this before, but the person that was speaking before me, but volunteering is really important in this role or with any roles in the community development team. And that's just purely because you get to learn about the industry, you get to learn about projects and how to deliver projects. So then when you're looking to apply for these type of roles like the one that I'm in now, or one within the community development team, they will take a lot of value in you volunteering, because hopefully you can hit the ground running as well. But also they would see that you've given a lot of thought and a lot of interest in that type of role. So for me, prior to going into the community development team, I used to go back and forth to South Africa. And when I was in South Africa, I did a lot of volunteering with the community development stuff in Durban. So I got to learn about some of the struggles that they have in delivering projects. It's completely different to the UK, but I was able to draw from that experience, and I was able to use that as part of my examples during the interviewing process, which the community development team found to be as an attractive feature with me, that I've been looking into this prior to actually applying for the job.